In this tutorial we will have a look at the dashboard, the navigation buttons. You access them by going to the plugins and then the dashboard, and you enable. This brings up the dashboard buttons, the default ones. They are quite big when they start out, but you can use this slider to change the distance on the buttons, make them smaller. You can rearrange them. If you look at this one, it's over here. You can drag it and move it in the interface, or you can delete buttons from the interface, reduce the amount of buttons, and as I showed before, resize them. You can have the glow differently. Now there's a yellow glow. You can change the color of the glow, and that applies to all of them. You can have one without the glow. Now this resizing, that's the resize effect here, turned off. They don't resize. You can have the glow on and no resize. The tooltips doesn't show right now, but upon reloading the tooltips will show. If you want new buttons, you can look for them in the resources folder. There are a few sets of buttons. This one is not coming with the program. This is something I've made on made privately. You can make your own buttons and have it in the folder, in the resources folder, or somewhere else, and direct it to the new buttons. Changing the buttons is very simple. Just new buttons, and you direct to the folder where you have the new buttons, and they have to be named in the same way that the original buttons. As you can see here, the original setup, and the first button, the info, is named 1, and it will be 1 PNG, 1.png, 2 PNG, 3 PNG, etc. Even the buttons that you're not going to use in your project, you still have to have the default buttons and all of them, all the graphics. So you have to check in the folder of one of the original folders and see which graphics are there, and all of those graphics have to be included. If you leave out some of the graphics, there will be some errors, and therefore you need to have all the graphics, even if you don't use them. Then we have a look at the placement. There are 3 positions available by default, and you can arrange them in whatever pattern that you want. Have them on the side, or have them stacked on top of each other, or have special graphics so you make like a round controller for them. So there are many different possibilities that you have there. The add bar, this brings up a bar behind the navigation buttons, and you can have add show height, a toggle button for the navigation buttons. It is dynamic by default here. You can add that, and when it's dynamic, then it will bring the dashboard down and move with it. If we remove the toggle button and add again, but not dynamic, add it here, then it will stay in place while the dashboard goes down. So you can have a button that hides it, and that button will not be moving. And the default settings for the buttons are boxed, so it's a box property rather than spot. The best display for the buttons is in spot and not the default one. So you can change that, change the settings, bring them into spot. That makes them stand out more clearly. This is something that should change in a future version whenever you remember. So change the settings for the buttons to spot rather than box. Takes only a few seconds, and then they are much more clearly standing out.